On this episode of Militaria at the museum, we open a D-Day scrapbook, revealing the untold stories of sacrifice and service. Next, we explore a collection of war souvenirs, artifacts that reveal the deep human connections between family and loved ones, at home and on the front. Finally, we examine a .50 caliber ship's gun. Beyond museum exhibits lies a hidden realm of archived artifacts that hold the keys to unlocking intriguing stories from the past. Come along as I meet with experts at the Army, Naval, and Aviation museums, where I've been granted special access to pull back the curtains and reveal the secrets of their militaria. My name is Sandy Hiltz, and all my life I've been captivated by military history. Now, I have the rare opportunity to explore a collection of fascinating military artifacts on Militaria at the museum. At the Aviation Museum, we're soaring into the pages of a D-Day scrapbook with aviation expert Mark People. This personal collection captures the stories of the often forgotten support crews of D-Day, offering a glimpse into the sacrifice and service of those who played their part on such a vital day in history. Mark, I love walking around the museum and seeing all these great wartime photographs.
We have a great selection of photos here, but I also have something that may be of interest to you. It's actually a World War II album by a leading aircraftsman, George Samuel Smith, that covers his entire service period from 1943 right to the end of the war. And it covers all the pivotal moments of the invasion of Europe, including D-Day and right through to the end of the war in Germany.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, let's go look. Here is George Samuel Smith. George Samuel Smith was a corporal in the Royal Canadian Air Force from 1941 to right through till about 1947. What he was doing was driving trucks, and he was part of a team, sort of an unsung team of workers that were enabling the operation to continue and keep the aircraft flying. The interesting thing about the scrapbook is the fact that it is a fairly complete selection of pictures from basically D-Day, landing in Europe, right through to the end of the war. We start where he started his journey, which is at St. Thomas, Ontario, and this is the #1 technical training facility where the RCF trained all their ground crews and various truck drivers to actually work on the aircraft and actually work within the squadrons within the field.
That's very interesting. So what we're seeing here is not pilot training or anything. This is support roles being trained.
Right. This is the role of actually what it kept to keep the squadrons moving. And also with D-Day onwards, the effort was to move the squadrons along with the battlefront, so they could provide the photo reconnaissance and support to the battlefront. So they literally went across Europe using advanced aerodromes or aerodromes that were built or existing aerodromes that they had captured from the Germans. In this collection, it shows you the scope of what it took to move a squadron. So the number of trucks, the number of equipment, be it cranes, be it mobile workshops. Why don't we sort of look at further, and I can look at the journey that George had.
Yeah, that would be great. And as you say, Mark, it is a really interesting archive.
With someone like Corporal George Smith, it's a story about ordinary soldiers who went to war but weren't necessarily in the thick of the fighting, but they played a vital role in providing the support operationally to enable the pilot. We open on the first page, which is the exciting stuff as I can see, which is Spitfires. And obviously, this is obviously somewhere now in Europe, and we've got a great shots of the various Spitfires that we're using. And the interesting part on this is you can actually see on the side of it that the Spitfires were carrying, as well as guns and weaponry. They actually had cameras on the side so they could actually take side shots.
And I suppose that seeing those certain models of Spitfires really helps someone with an eye like yourself identify a pretty precise time for these photos, does it?
Right, and it also gives it a sort of a different view of it. I mean, this particular Spitfire is actually a squadron leader Spitfire because it's personalized. It's got his initials on the side of it, so it's kind of specific that way.
And that's a great photo there. That's sort of, classic photos we see of the Second World War, Allies sitting below a German sign.
Right. The other interesting shot here is actually the trucks and the movement. You can see how many trucks it takes to keep this wing going. I mean, literally, you know, there's probably about 30 trucks.
And that would have been supporting how many aircraft?
2 squadrons, probably about 40 aircraft, probably in that regard. Again, and then we actually have German aircraft that they've come across complete, German 88 anti-aircraft guns. I would assume that these are action shots at night. And then we actually have later marked Spitfires actually in the German hangars, and you can see the Racken Verboten, which no smoking sign on the wall. So as much as I can say, it's Hamburg Harbor. Again, heavily bombed and wrecked, right? Again, it's a great sort of historical record. At the time were just snapshots, but now you get to see it. It's certainly a different level to it. This is D-Day, and we can see the Spitfire, and that's a PR, it's a photo reconnaissance Spitfire, probably 400 squadron, they painted the red and white, the white and black stripes on them. And that is being painted because they did all the aircraft flying over the beaches. They put these identification marks on them. Key identification was the invasion stripes.
Oh, that's really interesting that one feature of that photo tells us that these are all around the date of D-Day.
Right.
Yeah. All those men you see in that photo didn't really know exactly where they were going. They knew that they were going to be involved in some sort of seaborne invasion, but not exactly where it was going to take them.
Essentially, they were going to be spending the next year and a half under canvas in fairly rudimentary conditions, as obviously some of these shots show that as well too.
And what are we looking at here?
We're sort of jumping a bit, but this is St. Thomas again, and these are older RCF airframes that the RCF is training how to handle the aircraft, how to take them apart, how to move them. This is a Wapiti, which is a very early biplane in the ferry battles, and some Gypsy Moths as well too.
It's such an interesting opportunity to be able to see that sort of other side of the story, not just focusing on that sort of glamorous story of the fighter pilots and so on, but actually see the crew and all the efforts that had to go into that and keeping those planes in the sky.
Yes, I mean, again, it's a great shot of you don't understand what it takes to move a wing, you know, and how many trucks you need and how to have drivers. And actually, Canadian-built trucks we used, because Canada was building a huge number of Army trucks.
And that really does go to show, you know, the huge role that Canada played in the war.
Right, and also it shows what was needed to ramp up for D-Day and ramp up for the invasion of Europe, whereas you had to, you know, create, build, equip, and man all these units, and this is just one that's going across.
Were you able to, through the pages of this book or further research, learn much about Smith and either his life before the war or after?
We observed some of the story in the sense his training is 41. There's a bit of a gap between 41 and 42 training and where he ended up with number 39 R wing. And then he served throughout Europe, ended up in Germany at the end of the war, and then ended up staying within the RCF in Europe till 1946 because there was a fairly heavy RCF presence even after the war. Then basically he came back to Canada in the 50s, but it looks like he actually returned to England and eventually died there.
Mark, thank you for taking me through the pages of this album and helping to shine some light on the story of those individuals who do not often find themselves in the spotlight.
But this is an Irks album, and again, that's what makes it rare and that's what makes it interesting. It's part of someone's history, but we're able to at least preserve it and at least show it.
After the break, I'll take a closer look at hidden treasures in the Army Museum's archives, revealing the stories behind the souvenirs sent home by soldiers during wartime. Over at the Army Museum, expert Shara Kingston is guiding me through a collection of war souvenirs. These artifacts, acquired by soldiers during their service, offer a small window into their personal experiences and the realities of combat. I didn't realize there are so many ways of categorizing war souvenirs.
There definitely is. I've tried to make it simple, so I've got some things in here that I can show you. We go away somewhere, we want to bring a piece of that home because we want to remember. So the war souvenir becomes a way for them to remember good and bad. They can still share their experiences with their people or the rest of us.
This is a lot of stuff we have in front of us here, Shara. Where should we get started?
I might start with the Princess Mary tin from the First World War. And the reason why I would start with that thematically is that they were given to soldiers And what often happened, the soldiers would put their war medals in it afterwards, or maybe their collar badges. They'd close the box, it would go in the sock drawer, and that was their war in a box. I like this for that kind of container aspect. Princess Mary was the princess, or the daughter of King George and Queen Mary. And October 1914, she started to feel very sad because she realized soldiers wouldn't have a Christmas gift. So she looked into her own very, probably large, petty cash and thought she could come up with some sort of way to gift soldiers. So she put out a call, citizens of Britain, would you help me? So there was a post put in the paper and it ended with, will you please help me? Could we give them a nice Christmas? So the box was created, and in each box there was something different. Yeah. So all the boxes had a Christmas card and a portrait of Princess Mary or of the King and the Queen. The interesting thing is they actually started running out of supplies. And so they had to start, again, pivoting about what they're gonna put in. The boxes towards the very end had things like combs, razors. There were over 2 million that were produced. It took up until 1920 to get them out to everyone. That's a long period of time.
It certainly is.
War souvenirs are an important aspect of military history because we can all learn about a weapon. It's not until you actually associate a soldier and their experience to that weapon that you get a full story. And so with souvenirs, same thing. A jewelry is just jewelry, or a handkerchief is just a handkerchief, or a postcard is just a postcard. It's not until you start to bring all of that together that you get a full scope of what war could mean or has meant to other people.
Where do we go next in the theme of things collected?
Sure. Well, these are very popular. They're kind of what we call badge belts, war belts, trophy belts.
So what do we have for things sent home?
Oh, there was so much that was sent home. So I would think you would automatically go to the postcard. That's kind of the obvious. The ones that I love the most, though, are the embroidered postcards. Have you seen these before?
I have not, and they are beautiful.
Gorgeous. So I think the really interesting thing about the embroidered postcard is amidst the brutality of war, there was still beauty. They were often sent home to the women of your family. So your daughters, your sisters, your mothers, and your wives. Some of them have these gorgeous flaps with little envelopes so you could handwrite messages that go inside. And they were all different. And how they were produced was that local women within France and Belgium would come up with a pattern or a stitch. And then someone in 1915 became very ingenious, and they decided we have to reproduce these because they're selling like hotcakes and we can move them. So they came up with this, it's called a pantogram, and it's a way of reproducing the images with stitches. It's a very convoluted process, very cool. So they created those, and then they were able to be sold at what we would maybe call the corner store.
Right.
Yeah, or along the side of a river, someone might set up a little stall and sell these beautiful embroidered postcards. They were done in the pantogram, then put in the frame, and most people didn't sign them because they were too beautiful. But some of the ones that we have do have names associated with them.
Right.
In the bleakness of war, that we're able to see a little bit of beauty with the embroidery or a little bit of the soldier's personality. Now, handkerchiefs are associated with women. Men gave them to wives, men gave them to sisters because women often use them. Men might have a handkerchief that is utilitarian. Women have beautiful handkerchiefs. Right. And you'd give one to someone you loved or admired. And also the typical use of a handkerchief was not what we know as, blowing your nose. It would be more, patting your eyes or dropping them and seeing if the gentleman will pick them up and give them back to you. And so that kind of leads into this theme of things that you would send home or leave that show your pride. Anything with your emblem. Some people actually did large pillows. They had wall hangings to indicate the regiment that their son or husband is serving with. And it was a source of pride. With the regimental jewelry, there are all sorts of things. So it would be taking your collar badge and then they would make it fancy. So then they'd put enamel on it or sometimes little stones. So they would take the button and they would make it a locket.
Really?
And put a picture inside so that you would always have that person close to your heart.
Sure. And there's another piece with a photograph there.
Yes, so many interesting lockets and pieces. I think these are really amazing pieces, and you would leave them to give some solace and some hope.
Absolutely, absolutely. And is that a dog tag, or what is that I'm looking? Well, there's the locket.
There's the locket, and then his identification disc is attached to it. War souvenirs are important to me because I think we have a very narrow understanding of war. We learn about sort of facts in history, and I like the idea that there's people behind those facts and that not everything was gruesome, that there were some, moments of levity and moments of beauty.
Thank you for sharing this all with me. It's been very interesting to explore, and also the idea of how these items would have connected someone with their loved ones, with their enemies, and with that very difficult time of their lives.
You're most welcome. I'm happy to show you, share.
My pleasure. When we return, I'll dive into the history of the 3-inch 50 Mark 33 twin mount, uncovering its role in the evolution of naval warfare and its impact on Canada's maritime defenses. I'm at the Naval Museum, exploring a piece of history that is an important innovation in combat at sea, with naval expert Rick Sanderson. He's showcasing a formidable weapon that fired 50 caliber shells in battle, marking a key point in the evolution of naval defense.
We're going to take a look at a piece of shipboard artillery. This is a twin caliber gun that was used in Canadian Navy from very early 1950 through until 1998. The last one was withdrawn.
Given the many decades of usage of this gun, I would think that it was quite an innovative piece of technology when it first came along.
It is in many ways, and we're going to get into some of those things, but this gun is called a 3-inch 50 caliber gun. Twin mounts. The radar is operated strictly from the control panel that's inside this gun. When you look at it, it looks like it's got this robust shield, but it's not robust. It's plastic, it's fiberglass to cut down on the weight. When the guns were initially mounted, they were totally open to the environment, and that's 12-man crew and a very delicate gun with some electronics attached to it. This gun is equipped with an SPG-48 type radar, and this one moves with the mount and would be used to track the aircraft that are coming towards this ship.
And now when we talk about this having a 12-man crew, would that be 12 men inside of this?
12 men inside that thing. That's correct.
It would be pretty tight quarters.
Well, yeah, it is very tight. This gun is primarily an anti-aircraft gun.
This is obviously a very powerful piece of equipment. What sort of impact did it have?
Well, the gun was not used all that often. The primary weapon was, there were onboard rockets that they were also using. But this gun was meant to provide defensive capabilities against torpedo bombers, that kind of thing, things that would be attacking the ship. It had a 360-degree turn on the turntable here on the mount, and the earlier guns did not have that either.
Were there any sort of pitfalls with this gun?
The rounds can get jammed in. There is a fail-safe device built into the electronics and into the gun itself so that they won't be double-loaded. But things like a slightly off-centered round can jam inside there. But the primary problem was that these guns, because they could fire 50 rounds a minute, are on fairly light-built ships. So there's an awful lot of shaking going on down underneath. The original 1910 gun was not able to traverse 360 degrees like this one is. And this has also got a rapid fire system that the first gun did not have. We're going to take a look at the kind of round that these guns actually fired.
Excellent.
Okay.
So what are we looking at here, Rick? This is obviously a tray for more shells.
That's exactly what it is. There's a couple of guys bringing stuff up from the magazine, and the automatic system brings it up to the deck. Guys bring it over, put it in here, and they keep pushing them in, pushing them in, pushing them in. There's separate guys who are taking them out of here to move to the next position. If you look down the left-hand side here, there are some sights, gun sights in here, and then the gun itself is right here. That's the breech right up there. So all the shells are automatically loaded into that breech. So we'll take a look in the next one right here. These are the auto loaders for the guns. There's 6 rounds that would be held in each of these, and there's 2 guys in here on each side that do nothing but put the rounds from those holder baskets into this auto loader, and the auto loader just swings it that way, puts it into the breech. Breech automatically closes, fires, and there's a guy controlling the firing. There's 2 guys either side of the gun who are controlling the gun itself. One doing the sights, the other one doing the elevations. And then right in the center is a control panel for the overall office. They call him the officer of the gun, but he's not really an officer. He's the guy who's in charge of the gun crew. There's one guy in here who does nothing but clear those shell casings from around the gun, the base of the gun. I imagine they've all got pretty serious hearing problems.
Oh my goodness, it's unimaginable how loud it must have been to have been in here.
Yeah. I wanted to show you a little bit about the actual projectiles that are fired. We'll take this round out. Casing, round. This is fused, so you can turn that, and that will actually set a clock in motion. To actually make it run, has to have one particular thing. So I'm going to take this apart. You see this thing right here? That's the drive band. This is a different kind of round, different kind of fuse, but if you look closely here, you see these groove marks. Again, it's brass, same as this one here. When the cordite in here explodes from the trigger, then that forces that round down the tube. First thing that happens is this band hits the rifling that's in that tube. You can see it's slightly off to the angle. It's a spinning motion that makes the fuse start to work. Because it's an anti-aircraft gun, they don't really care to hit the object. What they want to do is get near the object, so they can guess the amount of time that it would take to run. Again, totally different round, but it has the same mechanism.
So with an anti-aircraft gun, they're happy even if it just explodes near the aircraft.
Yeah,
is that the idea?
Yeah. This gun was developed because, particularly in the Second World War, when the Americans were firing at kamikazes, torpedo bombers, dive bombers, they were using Bofors and 20 millimeters. They couldn't get enough power to actually hit the airplane and damage it and crash it. So they went to a more powerful gun to do that. And this is a direct result of that 40 millimeter and the Bofors. 3-inch 50 caliber gun went out of service by 1998. That was replaced by what was being used on the frigates. It's a totally automated gun, much faster rate of fire. Guns that go into museums must be fully serviceable. They must be able to work, whether it's a handgun or one of these things. It's illegal to make this thing unserviceable.
Why is that, Rick?
Because otherwise it's a paperweight. You know, museum's job is to maintain objects, preserve objects, conserve objects in the condition that they would have been in when they come into the museum. And that goes for these things as well.
Thank you very much for showing me this great piece of kit today, Rick.
You're very welcome. It's not often that we get to open these things up because it's outside, but I do like guns.
So do I. Having special access to go beyond museum exhibits reveals some of history's best-kept secrets and most interesting stories. Thank you for joining me in this exploration of military artifacts on another episode of Militaria at the museum.